Welcome to the Upshot interview series. This is episode number 19. Today we are going to be joined by Jack and Shawn Mercy, the co-TDs of the OTB Open, coming up this weekend on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, joined by Josh Mansfield. Josh, Shawn and Shawn have so much insight to share into the operations of a large-scale Disc Golf Pro Tour event. And I mean, we really get into it in terms of the business side of running one of these events.
They are very transparent. They tell us, you're going to hear them in the show, tell us to ask whatever questions we want because they're going to be completely open about it. And we definitely took advantage of that. I think it's impressive and commendable for them to do so, but man, I learned more about the operations of a disc golf tournament today than I think I have in my entire disc golf career.
Yeah, I mean, especially on one on this scale, you know, it's a lot different from running a local, even an A tier.
Sure.
When you start talking about having expenses north of $100,000 and, you know, running it like an actual event. And so much to learn from Shawn and Shawn. Obviously, we've had Jack on many times. Great to have Shawn Mercy join us as well. And plenty, of course, about the course itself. 70% new this year from last year. So, like, don't expect to see exactly what you saw a year ago. So much to get into with both Jack and Mercy. So stay with us. The interview is coming up next. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? They make more than just disc golf bags. Check out their new Fly Pack. You can find it on the website, pounddiscgolf.com. It is the maximum carry-on size travel pack that you've been looking for. Backpack straps, or you can take those off and convert it into a duffel. It's got room for a laptop, a tablet, your clothes, your stuff, and you know what? Some disc golf discs, because obviously you're going to bring some on vacation. $299.99, and it's just a beautiful bag. You got to check it out. It's available in multiple colorways. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to check out the Fly Pack so that you can travel in style. Joining us now on the Upshot interview series are the co-TDs of the OTB Open, Jack and Shawn Mercy. Jack is also the VP of Partnerships at the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Shawn Mercy is the president of the San Francisco Disc Golf Club. Shawn's, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie.
Super psyched to be here.
So I know it's always crazy getting ready for big tournaments. We're recording this Wednesday around 9 a.m. Pacific time. How are things going so far as the event is now 2 days away?
Things are going really well. The course has transformed a second time this week. We set it up for AMs last Wednesday, Thursday, and we're able to actually do a lot of the Pro Tour elements like the truss. We had the stage up last week. But this week, you know, everything else has gone out, from all the advertising assets, the sponsor walls, bleachers are set up now, and we're starting to do the spectator ropes.
And we have an elevated viewing. Sorry, Josh. We have an elevated viewing platform coming in today for hole 6, which is right next to our party peninsula. I'm psyched about that.
So describe hole 6 to us then, so we can kind of understand with the elevated viewing platform for that area.
Sure. Hole 6 is one of the only 3 holes that the women and the men share the same tee. It is around 360 feet. It is a potential water carry if you want to throw right-hand, backhand, right to left hyzer. You can throw lefty or forehand. The basket is elevated on an OTB elevated basket like pyramid. To the right of the tee pad is what we call the Party Peninsula, which is dressed with MVP branding. It's a general admission spectator area where you can view at least 3 holes. Last year it was a spectacular experience. Even the mayor of Stockton came out and had a beer, and then it's like a bar and grill there. We have a table set up with tablecloths, And then on the other side of the tee pad, we've invested, thanks to Zuka, another stage. You guys might recall we had a stage on hole 1, and now we have a secondary stage that's going to have some high top cocktail tables. That's a VIP only access that'll fit 50 people or so. And it just provides you better sight lines to see hole 6, hole 10, maybe hole 11, the green of 5.
17.
And yeah, 17's Peninsula. So it's just a really fun place to catch the action. Something we're really proud of. It's our vision for like getting to hole 16 at the Phoenix Waste Management Open. Like that's what we're trying to build there.
So that leads me then well into my follow-up question. You know, you have the VIP and the general admission. Describe the entire experience and kind of what your objectives were for both sets of passes and the appeal to draw large amounts of spectators to this event.
Well, it's definitely a little tricky. It's a new course again, so the main differentiation is that VIP can follow groups on the course. Essentially, you know, whatever card they choose, they can go out and follow them. General admission has access to probably 8 or 9 of the holes to some degree. So we basically have the perimeter of the course roped off so that you can poke down in, you can see 17, 18, you can come back out a little bit, and then you can get to hole 16, 15, 11, and then of course the Party Peninsula. So there is pretty good access for general admission, but we have some special stuff like the viewing platform we're adding this year for VIP is a new thing, and we want to do more of that going forward. But the biggest differentiation is that you can follow the groups on the course.
All right, so Party Peninsula, I want to talk about this because this is not something that really exists much in disc golf tournaments. But you know, you already mentioned the Waste Management Open, which I was going to bring up. So we know that you know, it can be a lot of fun to just be hanging out and like eating and drinking beers, as opposed to feeling like you have to go and like follow the lead card, which is sort of like the traditional model of you know, how you spectate disc golf. So how do you make that appealing when you don't have gigantic, you know, like 16 at Waste Management? How many people do they have there? 20,000?
Tens of thousands.
Like, yeah. So you know that like that's going to create an atmosphere on its own. How do you create that kind of from scratch and make it something that people want to go and do?
I mean, it starts with onboarding them, right? We've invested over $10,000 this year on professional event production company. So we're not doing the ticket taking. So as soon as people arrive, they're going to be told like the best general admission spectating area is the Party Peninsula. Provide signage that clearly indicates where that is. Make it look festive. So if you walk down there, there's 8 10 by 10 tents set up by MVP. There'll be the elevated viewing platform. There'll be a bar and grill. There'll be, you know, rope to guide them. We might even put some music inside the tents. Just don't want to affect competition.
Right.
But just, you know, make it obvious as possible that this is where to go. And I think, you know, as the crowd increases, you'll also see, you know, 500 to 1,000 people congregating in one space.
Yeah, and I think the other key there is once people see that area, it's the closest you can really get to the action. Like you're right next to the players when they're throwing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. You're like 15 feet from hole 6's tee box.
How many spectator passes did you sell, both of the VIP and general admission?
Right now, I looked yesterday, we're over 1,000 total. Probably about 50-50, honestly, at this point. But as I think VIP is sold out for Saturday, Sunday, 3-day VIP, I think we have maybe a couple dozen left over. And what will happen is once those sell out, we'll see a hockey stick growth of general admission tickets. So I would anticipate the over-under. If it was 1,500, I'd bet the over. I like that Charlie likes my line setting. And then, you know, my stretch goal would be to get to 2,000. Our goal by 2025 would be have 3,000 people at once on Sunday. That's our goal.
Like on site, all simultaneously, 3,000.
Yeah, I think we'll do 3,000 next year total, right? But yeah, I want 3,000 people at once. Swenson's a big property. It's like 150 acres.
150 acres.
And we can fit a lot of people. And we'll continue to professionalize and have more spectator rope. I know, I talked to Doug Bjerkus at DDO. They spent almost $10,000 on roping the entire course where they don't actually have to do any crowd control. Same thing with LVC. It was like, you get to go here, everyone gets to go in the same place. And we might get there, but the fact that our course is a safari course on the golf course, like the cart paths don't delineate anything. Like we're not playing along 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
So I think we have more challenges than other people that just use the regular track.
Yeah, and we have to set everything up, in these few days, leading up to the tournament. So there's not much time.
So I know that you're sorry, Josh.
No, you're fine.
You're going to be the first stop for this new concert series that the Pro Tour announced a few weeks ago. Corey Wong won't be there, but you will have a concert from Main Squeeze.
Main Squeeze, yeah, a funk band out of Indianapolis, I think.
I'm curious to know, did you drive this, like you knew you wanted a concert and then the Pro Tour kind of followed along and like decided to set up some other dates? Because Shawn, Jack, I've talked to you in the past about having like music and concerts at tournaments. Or did the Pro Tour drive this and then you're lucky and you get to be the first stop?
I'd say it's symbiotic. Like Corey actually came to San Francisco, which is where I live, in February. I played around with him at Golden Gate Park and then drove him to his venue and we chatted a bunch. And I got to go to a show, which was awesome. And I've always, like, I love promotion. It's in my blood. And I've gone to a lot of golf tournaments. I've gone to a couple majors. And I know that the way the PGA Tour is going is like your daily admission ticket also includes passes to see Sammy Hagar that night, right? And I know that sometimes it's a separate ticket, but I want to expand disc golf tournaments to attract people that aren't diehard disc golfers. And I think the way to do that is to bring in music and other fun activities. So as much as I would have loved to have Corey himself at our show, I think he's actually in Europe right now. This is a baby step, and we're the first event to have live music. We actually met about it last night. I'm really excited that we can announce now that VIP ticket holders get free access if they want to come. The last putt will drop hopefully between 6:30 and 7. It'll be about 30 minutes, and then bang. There's even talks, not that I should drop this, that Kevin Jones might like open as a DJ before the band. We just don't know if we have enough time. But that's something I think would also really kind of bring in the disc golfers, let them hang around, and maybe will be repeatable for the rest of the year.
You're going to make Kevin play funk music, or is it going to be a dubstep intro into a funk band?
Dubstep, all things electronic, yeah.
So Swenson Park is the property that you were playing this tournament on. Is this a private golf course then that you have access to?
I believe the city owns the property, but the lease is held by Kemper Sports.
So is that who you negotiated with in order to get access?
The general manager is an employee of Kemper. So yes. And Kemper owns and operates or leases 250 courses in the country.
Okay. What kind of contract do you have for long term? Is it year to year, 5-year? What does that look like?
No, it's year to year. They want to keep it that way too, and we're okay with that. And honestly, if you guys want to ask us like financial questions, we practice transparency.
That was going to be my next question. Actually,
no, we'll tell you. I will tell you everything. I'll tell you how much money sponsors have given us. I'll tell you what our goals are to make money as an event, which we are unapologetic for. So the golf course is actually charging us a rate of $15,000 with a clause that if they don't reach certain revenue goals via the bar and grill, then we have to pay them another tax or fee of up to $5,000. So I think it's actually quite reasonable that it's up to $20,000 for a total of 11 or 12 days, because it's like Thursday through the Thursday before amateur weekend through the Sunday of the pro weekend.
And is the golf course or that management group, the one coordinating grill, bar? Are they handling the staffing? Is that all included? How does that work exactly? Do you see any revenues from the food?
No, they own it. No, we don't get any revenue from the commissary or food and beverage. We can bring in outside vendors. That's all our income, but pretty much that's like the delineation. Is anything that they would serve anyway. And then they also get golf cart revenue for rentals.
For practice rounds.
Yep.
And what outside vendors have you guys brought in for this event?
So there's about 10, as you might imagine. OTB will be there. The guys from MVP, who are rock stars, arrived Wednesday before the amateur event with a staff of 5. Mm-hmm. And they did all our players packs. They put all out their own signage. They actually played around at Golden Gate yesterday.
Awesome.
And they've just been there constantly saying, like, what do you guys need? So not only was it a significant increase over our manufacturers partnership from last year, just as a resource, they've just been just amazing.
Yep.
It's been incredible.
What?
Other vendors. So Ideo Sports is here. The Disc Golf Pro Tour is here. Our course designer, Leonard Muse, has a store called Whirlwind Disc Golf. We have a disc technology company called like Tech Disc LLC that has like some RFID chip or something. We have a pickle canning company.
We have a spa company.
We have a hot tub spa company coming in that's going to have a swim spa. We have a Clask, a Finnish game. I know I'm missing some. A couple other Tide like disc guide companies. I don't know, a bunch. 10 to 12. Like we see that as a huge vertical, a future vertical.
Yeah.
We get like, 20, 30 vendors paying us between $500 to $1,000. All of a sudden we can start making, tens of thousands of dollars from vending.
So what is the ballpark budget for this year's event compared to last year?
Great question. Our expenses right now are about $120,000. And
right.
our income is around $135,000. And that's with added cash of $35,000 coming from just us. I know sometimes the tour will also add more, but and then we'll just, we won't post added cash until Sunday because we want to look at the Eventbrite income because we pretty much give not all of it, but some to
That's ticket sales.
ticket sales. Yeah. So like last year, the event netted $20,000. We paid half of that to some core staff members. And then Shawn and I invested the other $10,000 into the company with some equipment at the end of the year, like drone, television, et cetera.
Yep.
So I would say it's a 50% increase probably on both sides.
Wow.
So you estimate anywhere from up to even $40,000 of net profit?
No, I would say probably so our relationship with OTB, again, I'll be candid. So they have a minimum contribution to us of $20,000. But our upside is that we do revenue share on profit of the tournament branded stamps. So
Once they recover that $20,000.
right. So they've actually spent over $200,000 on discs with MVP, and we share in that revenue. So that's actually going to be a long tail effect that we will continue to collect money throughout the season, maybe not so much up front.
And do you guys take salaries for yourselves?
No, we don't take any draw. I don't intend on paying myself for the event for 3 years. Just keep investing back into the company. And then I won't, someday we're going to make, 6 figures on the tournament and we'll probably take some money off the table then. But I want to continue reinvesting, especially, added cash, player experience, spectator experience. One thing we're really proud of, we spent over 40 grand this year on the spectators from stage, sound. We have a 9 or 12 foot LED video wall that you can watch the Disc Golf Network while you're eating in the food court. The viewing platform, professional event services. I'm sure I'm missing something, but if you get there, it looks like a festival now. It's like you see big tents, like you see it right when you get off the highway. It's awesome.
So here's what I'm fascinated by. Shawn, Jack, we've talked for many years. You've been on the show many times, and we've kind of watched this event grow from being SFO to now OTB Open, and you clearly follow like what the PGA Tour is doing, and you're modeling a lot of what you're doing off of that and other sort of large scale events. There's two. I have two questions. Let me ask this one first. Is this getting a little ahead of itself? I mean, the fact that you're turning over a profit, maybe the answer is clearly no. But you have all of this investment into this event that's, not exactly like, it's not like it's in Los Angeles. It's not like it's in San Francisco. Do you worry that like the spectator growth isn't going to be there to kind of match the vision that you have for this tournament?
No. I mean, obviously disc golf cannot continue on the meteoric rise that it's done since the pandemic, right? I think by all accounts, the sport doubled or tripled from 2020 to 2022. But, disc golf's been growing at a 10 to 15% clip since 1976. If we just resume that growth, which by all accounts we are, then we're fine for the rest of our lives, right? And, like you said, we're not in LA, we're not in Stockton. I'm sorry, we're not in SF. Bay Area has 8 million people, but Stockton actually is pretty centrally located. It's right off I-5, the major artery in the state. So we're drawing spectators from obviously San Francisco. Stockton has 300,000 people. Sacramento has over 1 million people. We're drawing from Lake Tahoe, and we're drawing from the Central Valley, like Modesto, Fresno. So I honestly think, and as much as I love living in San Francisco, some people are scared to go there, right? It's traffic is bad. Parking at Glen Eagles was awful.
Yep.
It wasn't in the most desirable neighborhood. And this track is right off the highway. We have plenty of parking. It's an easy place to get around. And again, like we're really focused on taking care of the spectators. So that is by far the revenue vertical I think we can grow the most. And I feel I have a lot of faith in it.
So then my other question is, how do you, and like this isn't necessarily your job, Shawn, but as somebody who works for the Pro Tour and is trying to sell, advertising and marketing to outside companies to advertise on events like OTB Open, but also the other Pro Tour events, not all the TDs and tournaments are like taking it this seriously. Like maybe that's unfair to say, but I think it's fairly obvious to me that there's variance in quality from event to event on the Pro Tour. Now, some events may have what are deemed as better courses. We'll talk about the course more in a little bit. But from a standpoint of like delivering a entertainment experience, I think it's been clear for a long time that this event has taken it more seriously than some other tournaments do. Does it concern you that, people who are not directly your business partners, but in some ways are tied to you, are not quite on the same level in terms of focusing on the entertainment side of the experience, which at the end of the day is what this is all about?
No way. So there's like potential conflict of interest, right? Because I work for the tour. I also own and operate one of the events on the tour. But someone taught me a word this year called co-opetition, where I think competition breeds ingenuity. And I look at every event leading up to ours, how much added cash they had, what they're doing for spectators. And like Doug Birkus and Steve Dodge and I talk about that we're competing to deliver the best spectator experience on tour. That's good competition. I don't feel bad about it at all. Your thoughts, Shawn?
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't see it as a competition as much as, we have a vision of what we want to do, what we want to provide for the players, the spectators, our volunteers, and we're pushing forward, sometimes with input or experience from other tournaments, but a lot of times we just go for it.
So one area that we've talked about on the show recently, and I'm curious to know how it functions for your guys' event, and maybe this is the best question for you, Shawn Mercy, is clubs often play a big role in running Pro Tour events. What role has the San Francisco Disc Golf Club taken in this event, if any? Is there another club that's taking part of that? And is it, what percentage did you say? Last year you said that you paid out some course volunteers or course workers afterwards. How many volunteer hours are we looking at from club members to make this event happen?
Well, since we're in Stockton, the San Francisco Disc Golf Club has not played a major role in this, aside from me sort of leading the volunteer effort on the course side. Certainly the Delta Windjammers, who are the local club in Stockton, some of their core members have been absolutely phenomenal, and we could not have done what we did on the course this year without them. We're in the second year of the relationship. We've known a lot of the people in the Windjammers Club, the Modesto Club, which is a town that's close to us. Lodi is another town with a club. And there's a few people from each of those that all kind of come out and help out. And that's just in the course build up. Then once we expand, looking at all of the needs we have for the actual tournaments, from UDIS scoring to spotting, crowd control, all of that, that's when we start to see, I think, a lot more of the local club community coming in to help us out. But yeah, for the course build itself, we decided to install 32 T foundations, and then we're laying turf on top of those. We've put in about 1,300 person hours over the last 2 months. with like 10 core contributors and a total of like 35 people who came out at least one day to help us out. I've basically been living in Stockton on the weekends leading this course build, and we finished.
Wow.
Just barely, but we
It's a remarkable effort. I take no credit for it at all. But what Shawn was able to do with his team, honestly, is nothing short of Herculean. Like, we built a safari. Like, we invested $15,000 in dirt on someone else's property that the course doesn't get played unless we take it over. It's kind of insane. But one of the issues we had last year was temporary tee pads, and so we said, screw it. We'll just build new ones, and they look gorgeous. They're awesome.
Yeah, they're playing really well. The players have been giving us a lot of good feedback, which feels good, because it's definitely coming out of several hard weeks of just heads down, getting it done.
Will these tee pads remain in place following the event?
The foundations will, all but one, because we installed it right next to a golf green.
Okay.
That one needs to come out, but 31 of them, the foundation, so everything except the turf is going to stay in.
Got it. So let's talk about the course. It's changing a lot. This was a brand new track that was built last year, and now it's almost going to feel maybe brand new again. What was the reason for wanting to make so much change to the course this year?
So coming out of last year, being on site, I'd say the biggest miss, which I don't really blame us for, was not planning well for spectator flow around the course. We didn't know that we were going to have spectators until 3 weeks before the event. And so we had deprioritized that, in the design side of the course. We also only had the top third of the property, which does have all of the water. So that's where the 5 holes are that we're reusing. But coming out of last year, seeing some of the challenges we had in certain areas with multiple holes kind of converging in one location, and then trying to move people around during the events, especially on Saturday and Sunday for chase card, lead card, I realized that if we wanted to grow into this 3,000, 5,000, person on site experience in 3 to 5 years, that we needed to take over the entire course and redesign. The GM actually planted the seed during the event last year. He's like, I don't want to deal with golf next year. He had 9 holes of the back, the back 9,
Front 9.
The front 9 of his 18-hole golf course running concurrently. And so they had to manage that while we just blew his, basically his facility up with all these people. So he wanted to simplify. He made us, basically a really good offer on what it would cost to rent the entire property. And so those things converged. And then we worked Leonard towards the course is great. We know you got great feedback. We don't need to redesign the entire thing, but these are the things we're looking at for the next 3 to 5 years. And we want this course to be the foundation for that.
So in broad strokes, what has changed? You mentioned you kept the water holes, but a lot of the holes are going to be totally new.
Yep.
13 of them are new. Only 5 are repeating.
Yep.
From a philosophical or general course flow standpoint, what are some of the things that are going to be different this year?
You have any thoughts on that?
I asked Calvin when he finished his practice round a couple days ago what he thought. He said it's clearly a Leonard Muse design. So I think, much to Josh's dismay, he might see the disc not flying in the air a couple times this weekend. And personally, I love rollers. I think it's the most exciting shot we have. I think it's so you're definitely, depending on the wind conditions. And I know Charlie's going to be like, yo, whatever, Shawn. 3 over was 1,000 rated.
I'd have to look.
Sorry, even was 1030 rated last weekend during the amateur event. But the amateurs can't score on the course in the men's layup because they just don't have the distance.
Yep.
No one birdied hole 1, and then I drove with Tristan Tanner, and he birdied the first time he played it. And I was like, oh, that's how you do that. So the men's course is 11,700 feet.
Wow.
It's long.
That's long.
But there's probably only on hole 1 do you actually get see the players rip in the air, without worrying about, turning, hitting a line. It's low ceilings. Rollers definitely help. It's really pretty out there. It's Swenson Park is more like a wildlife preserve than a golf course, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And because we're not playing the golf track at all, It doesn't feel like a golf course. Like you don't see like I think we only have 2 holes where there are a green or sand traps near the target.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
So it's more like, I think honestly, it's an example of what you can do if you just look at a property on a Google map, right? And say, okay, identify these beautiful features and then connect it and don't even, who gives a shit about hole 1, 2, 3 of the golf course?
Yep. One of the other big changes was we separated hole 1 and 18 a little bit more, created a little bit more space there because those are, 2 heavy action areas. And 18 is now finishing behind like the practice green area of the golf course. It's irrigated. It's beautiful. We've got bleachers set up there. It is a dog leg right kind of keyhole type situation with
it looks
OB
nothing like
all
the
around.
fort. Nothing like the fort at all.
The fort. Definitely wasn't motivated by that at all. But that's one of the things that we really, really wanted on this course. Last year, hole 18 ended up being what it was. It was fine, but it certainly wasn't the type of hole that was probably going to lead to a lot of drama. And we certainly wanted a couple finishing holes to allow that to happen.
So, you guys I'll let you guys kind of give the advice to Charlie. Should Charlie take the under on a double-digit hot round MPO?
It's all the win, man. I listened to Brody talk about the course, and he said, certainly could see an 11-12 if it was windless, and also could see a hot round of 3 if the wind was blowing.
Yeah.
It's it's
look at the forecast, Charlie.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I want the number. You got to give me the number. Best round of the weekend. Set the line.
11.
11?
10.5.
Wow.
Oh, that's the line?
For the one single round. That's what I'm setting it at.
That's the over-under?
Yeah.
Dang.
Because it's not going to be windy every single day. There will be one day that it's relatively calm.
You're just afraid now. I mean, what were you giving me last year? Like 4.5 or something, 5.5. Now you're going to give me 10.5.
I mean, if we do the math on the amateurs, it was 5 points a stroke at 10:30 at even. So an 11 down would be 10.85.
Doable.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Eagle shot 13 last year, and I think that was 10.88. I'm not sure if you guys can look that up.
All right, you know what? I already know what I do. I always do this. I'll take the under, aka further under par. So someone's going to shoot 11 or better. Everybody always thinks that their course is going to be this, hard.
No, I am not. I agree with you.
I mean, the hot round on Sunday when it was blowing at the amateurs was like a 9 over.
Yeah. If we get certain wind, then
it's like impossibly more difficult.
Yeah. They also you have to be able to throw 500 feet to score on the MPO layout. There's one kid maybe that can throw that far. Yeah. Maybe a couple.
I hate the fact that you have me wanting it to be windy now. So
it's going to be hot. I want it to be windy.
Wind.
We want moderate 15. Wind. Yeah.
So I think that we've talked about there's a complex relationship with distance in courses because pros nowadays can throw further than ever before, especially when you can have Eagle breakout rollers. Eagle obviously not going to be there this weekend, but when you give them the room to work, the distance is longer than ever before, and it's required us to fundamentally rethink the way that we design courses. What is the limit, I guess? Does your course reach it? Can we go longer? Should we go longer? What is your guys' thoughts in terms of when you look at this course and other courses on tour as to how we should approach distance in today's age of disc golf?
I think we're near the current limit, to be honest, on a flat course. It's a lot of really hard throws, even for the top players.
Especially the first 5 holes. Women. It's like par 4, par 3, par 5, par 4, par 5. If you get to when it's like 2 miles of walking, right? So the distance is definitely front loaded, and then it kind of softens when you get to hole 6.
Yeah,
and we're definitely at the limit for the women. The women are almost at 10,000 feet, and in my opinion, I think Leonard designed the course for the women in 2 or 3 years. Like it's like if you're out there, pick Ella, right? Especially coming off her Masters Cup success, like I'd like to see the par 3s maybe a little bit shorter for the women. I think the 4s and 5s are perfect.
Yep.
But if you don't got 350 hyzer, 370, 400 foot, you should look at some of the par 3s and just capitulate to them and say, how do I get a 3? And just not think about the birdie. So I think he definitely designed the women's course for the future by a couple years, knowing that disc technology, players, fitness will increase. And the men I think is really, really good.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I'm trying to remember what the longest course was last year. I don't think it ended
Portland?
up being OTB. It was Portland, right?
No,
I think it was Portland.
At
Jeff
like
purposely designed
10,900
Glendoveer.
or something like that.
Glendoveer was, I think, 12 something.
Yeah.
Was it over 12?
It was almost
Wow.
13.
I think it was a. Yeah.
He had a par 5 that was 1,300 feet
I
uphill.
remember that.
It was awesome. I mean, it was like down and up, but like it was pretty rad.
So, what's the signature hole?
10,
Tell us about 10.
17. 10 and 17. 10 was last year's 14. It's awesome because it's a double water carry. And the water is angled at like a 30 to 45 degrees. So like the more you want to chew off, the more you're rewarded. So you can cut it off short, but then you probably can't get a birdie. And then you have to throw over water again. And then like the Party Peninsula is to the right of that. And they get to experience all of that. It's awesome. 17 is a wooded hole off the tee to get to a landing zone between 350 and 450. And you have to hit a line. It's in the woods. Like if anyone wants to call us like, I hate disc golf on golf courses, like this is not that. Like granted, yes, we are on it, but we didn't have the same constraints that most course designers have. And then once you get to the opening on 17, you throw into this amazing, beautiful peninsula that is about 50 to 60 feet deep. There's a way to bail out to the left, and there'll be 500 to 1,000 spectators watching you.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
If you want a birdie, you got to go over the water.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah. You got to let it hang out, or you got to pretend there's no water and just let it hang out there. And then if you don't ever cross back in, another thing where I'm really happy that we did not do this year, we have no squirrely rules at all. We're not preventing anyone from doing anything. There's no drop zones. There's no islands. You have all three choices at all times, whether to reshoot or play where it was last in bounds. So on 17, if you throw it over the water and never come back in, you get to do that shot again.
Got it.
What was the decision-making process in choosing to have the 2-meter rule in effect for
There we
5
go.
of the holes?
Well, it's inherently part of the culture in Northern California. And we knew, like, we looked it up a couple years ago, that 2-meter rule can be by course, by hole, or by object. And the sales guy in me wanted it by object, and I wanted to sell it as a sponsorship, right? Like, wrap a tree, like this is like the 2-meter tree. And so we decided this year we'll move towards hole. And I think the philosophy is, with people that believe in the 2-meter rule, and I know I'm going to get probably dragged through the coals here, is that there are some holes that we have out there where you are not allowed to just throw into a tree above the target and hope to plinko down. So the 5 holes that we have it's just that. It's that we don't want, hole 1 is a beautiful tee shot off a stage in an open field, but then it narrows. It's almost like 15 at USDDC, where it's like the green is really protected. And I don't want people throwing a forehand 60 feet into a tree and hoping it just comes down. Like, so they can't just get an automatic birdie.
Yeah, so it's just another tool in Leonard's toolbox, essentially.
I'm sure you saw that Masters Cup had no 2-meter rule this year.
Yeah, because so Innova made that as a policy last year, that if they were going to be, I think specifically, if you want access to their CFR program, which is, their Halo disc, then you're not allowed to have the 2-meter rule. So that I assume came down from the top. And that had nothing to do with us changing sponsors, as much as I think that's a funny
but it
joke.
might have been because we used 2 meters last year for the entire course.
Perhaps.
That
yeah.
might have.
And honestly, as a Pro Tour employee, I wouldn't be shocked if the competition standards change next year and they said you can't do it anymore. So this might be a bridge year, a year in between where it's like half and half.
I think it's a good balance personally, especially with a course like this where we have, some low ceilings, but just a lot of the dominant features, the obstacles that we have to use for the design are big oak trees.
Mm-hmm. Near greens.
Yep.
Where the baskets are underneath them. And go ahead. If you want to throw a spike hyzer and come down, like, good luck.
Yeah, we just want there to be some risk to that tact, if you will.
Sure. What's the vision for this tournament in 10 years?
Phoenix Waste Management Open. It's, tens of thousands of people, millions of dollars in spectator revenue, first place prize of $100,000, rock bands. In 10 years, honestly, so I'm in my mid 40s. If I could do my pro tour job for the next 10 years and retire like in my mid 50s and then do this event full time, I can't think of many better things. Like that would be rad. I would love that. If that could support me and my family living in the Bay Area, I mean, that would be a dream come true.
Okay, so really important question. How much are beers?
Oh, so
Good question.
I just read that. So with the $19 this past weekend on the PGA Tour,
Yeah, there was people complaining about I think it's this coming weekend, right, for PGA
Like a-
Championship.
it was like
People are
I saw a
mad because
menu.
the big
It was like
25-ounce
$19.
beers are like, yeah, they're almost $20.
I think it's $8 to $10.
I don't know. I haven't seen the price sheet.
Yeah, so
We're not
like-
selling the beers.
And
so.
there's an OTB, there's an OTB branded collaborative beer from a local brewery. That's the typical tall can. I think that's going to be $8 to $9. I find the pricing to be more than reasonable for everything at Swenson.
Yeah, so like
Not quite as cheap as the Masters. I know Masters has like old timey pricing from like the 40s. It's not like that where it's like $1 for a hot dog, but
you get to do that when you can charge like $750 for tickets or whatever it is.
yeah.
It's a lottery just to get in.
Right.
Oh, go ahead, Charlie. Did you have something?
You got it, Josh.
Okay. So, you talked about this 10-year vision and making it something that could potentially be your full-time position. What do you think is the timeline for that being an event coordinator running, whether it be a single tournament, so the TD of OTB Open, for example, or for the Pro Tour that you're in charge of, 4 events or 5 events? When do you see that as being a full-time position that can sustain, an individual livelihood?
That's a great question. I think it's a lot like any entrepreneurial endeavor where it could happen right now, right? Like if I were to quit my job, which I love my job. I think I could do it starting now. I don't know if I could make 6 figures in order to do that right away, but
Right.
a lot of times with small businesses, you have to wait 3 years to get to break even. So, but if I worked full time on this event, I could generate so much more money with sponsors, with vendors, just getting more creative. It's just we have a finite amount of hours that we can put in the day. We have other things. He and I haven't probably played disc golf like 2 times. You haven't probably played in 2 months.
Twice since March 1st.
So I think it's now.
Wow.
I think it's right now. Look at Nate, right? I don't know how much Nate is in selling insurance anymore, Nate Heinold. But he's sort of led that charge where he's now running Ledgestone, D-Glow, a major. I'm convinced he's one of like quintuplets or has robots because I don't understand how much time he has in the day. But I think if you wanted to do it now, it's there.
Yeah, I think there are at least several people out there who are running smaller events, likely with disc sales to support, bring in additional revenue. But I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and he does at least one event every single weekend, sometimes multiple events. And that's his living. Like he does that professionally.
Jeff Spring makes a living, I think, running disc golf tournaments.
Like the tour.
Yeah.
Yes.
I see like it would be hard for, it seems like just from my perspective right now, it would be difficult to run this level of an event outside of the area that you live in.
Yeah.
Just because of the networking, and we're still in a place where we need a lot of help from people that we're not paying, right? We thank them in various ways, but probably by the end of this tournament, we're going to have 2,500, 3,000 donated hours at least. And that takes like a network, it's not just one person. It's not just me like leading this. Like it takes me networking with other leaders in the community and getting the communications out from our own team. It's not easy to do. And actually, I think we'll get a little bit of a taste of that when we're helping Jeff out with Worlds in Vermont.
So you would say if you were paying those volunteer hours out, you could estimate that your projected costs for the tournament could easily double.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, 3,000 hours. I mean, minimum, you got to pay at least, $15 an hour in California, right?
yeah.
I mean, do the math, right?
I mean, we're still at the point where the time that we're putting into this event, like if we were paying ourselves an hourly rate, It would be really low.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, like, I think you can tell we still treat this as an investment and we're looking long term.
So I guess. Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Just really quick thing. You just mentioned you're going to be helping Jeff with Worlds next year. So
Yeah.
What's up with that? He's bringing.
I
you
love
in
to tell
as,
that
like,
story.
TDs?
Yeah, so I went to Worlds last year. You guys were there. We hung out. And I don't want to say that. There were some issues, right, on the ground. And I think I've always been just intimidated to run Worlds. And I was like, I can do this. Like, I can just say yes when people have good opinions. And I called Shawn and I was like, no one had put a bid in yet. And we thought about it, like putting a bid in to host Worlds next year. I talked to Jeff in Stockton. Yeah. So, but there's some issues. It was only the first year that we had the course. Worlds should have 2 courses. There's no other course like that has a world-class championship course close enough to Stockton within 30 to 45 minutes that we felt comfortable. So Jeff said, Smugs wants to do Worlds again. Why don't I bring on you and some of your core team members to be part of the team? So I'm the assistant TD at Worlds next year. Shawn's the course manager.
Also assistant TD.
Also assistant TD. So we are Shawn will probably handle like here most course operational type issues.
Yeah. And
I'll focus on sponsorship. I also want to really focus on getting spectators from outside like the greater northern Vermont area. So one thing that Tour has really not explored is travel packages. Like, let's draw a radius of 8 hours from Burlington all the way around the Northeast, which we'll start picking up Boston, Baltimore, Philly, New York City, maybe in Canada, Montreal, Toronto, and do shuttle buses, right? And like $500 to $1,000, you and 40 of your local disc golfers can get into a bus. You get dropped off at Smugs. You don't need a car there. And wouldn't that be rad if we could bring in like well over 1,000 people from all over the Northeast? And then I think that we can even go bigger. Like, I know that Worlds will be hosted someday in Europe. And man, if I can make it happen, I'd love to charter a plane from maybe just one way. Like, get like 200 people on a plane flying from, New York or SF over there, and people can come home however they want, right? So you can extend your European vacation to go into Spain or Italy, whatever. But I'd love to be able to do something like that, and like get the whole sport coalescing around that kind of effort. Like, let's go to Worlds together, like from the US.
What concerns do you have about this year's OTB Open?
Crowd control, I think, is always a concern.
Yeah. I feel like we're in a much better position.
Oh man,
overall.
We're 2 days ahead, I think, as far as like the course is competition ready. All we have to do now is like tighten the screws as far as like the assets.
Repaint OB lines.
Yep.
Things like that.
What we don't, I think I'm concerned about what we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, we're bringing a lot of people on site, vendors, volunteers, spectators. So it's just a lot of variables. I think we're pretty good at crisis management. Like, if things come up, we can each handle something, We
have so many more resources this year. We have honestly quadruple. It's like the golf course is now just focusing on us, so their employees. MVP has 5 employees. The tour is now at least double in personnel. We have a better team. Like, I feel like I don't want to sound confident and then something bad happens, right?
Yeah.
but we feel really good. I'm so excited. I'm driving around like and doing spot checking. Like, man, it's rad out there. I can't wait.
I guess so. One quick context question: were you both a part of the San Francisco Open prior to OTB Open?
So Shawn was the assistant TD the first year, and then we decided I ran that as a sole proprietor.
Okay.
The first year, and I lost $6,000. And then Shawn bought into Thousand Rated Productions, which is our LLC, at an investment to have equity into the company, where then we became partners and basically co-TDs. And the way it's pretty simple. Like, on the on the income statement, I'm income and he's expenses, right? So it's my job to make all the money. It's his job to spend all the money. Like, again, we spent $15,000 in decomposed granite in in lumber for someone else's property, which is not
12,000.
which is not good for your balance sheet, right? It's like it's not an asset.
No.
So yeah, but now we're business partners. He's one of my best friends. You know, if I had a godfather, he might be the godfather to my daughter.
I thought you meant that you'd have Shawn be your godfather. So, all right, I guess it's a thing. So the reason I ask, and maybe this question's a little bit obvious, but when I talked to Andrew Fish a couple months ago about tournament directors, he talks about how and I've talked to tournament directors locally, and they say, it's the worst weekend of their life, where they have 250 bosses who all have different needs and complaints, and they do, they're hours away from their family, and it's late nights and early mornings, and you guys have been living in Stockton, and you're not even playing disc golf right now because you're running this event. Why did you do it when you set out to do it? And is that reason still the same?
I mean, the passion, it's like, when I drive out here, I'm like, all right, you got to go into TD mode. TD mode means being friendly and responsive nonstop, constantly, right? It's answering my phone, my Facebook message, Instagram message, email. And I think one thing we do better than anyone is ask the players, like, what can we do better? What did we miss? How can we improve? And just being that friendly and responsive, like, permeates to everyone. I think we have a really cool vibe at the events where everyone's having a good time. And so, like, the people that say it's their worst week of their life, why are you doing it? It's a choice.
It is a choice. And I think, at least in my experience, like for last weekend, for example, we ran an amateur event, an A-tier, 208 players. And leading up to it was nuts, and it was really, really hard. We were burned out, just like trying to get that last kick to get everything ready for amateurs. But then, Friday morning, once the OB line was finished, yes, players were on the course already, but we were going ahead of them. Once that was done, the rest of the weekend was a breeze. We have a really good team. We don't have to do everything. We delegate a lot. Obviously, we're responsible for everything, and we divide and conquer the most important things and own them. But I think the same for this weekend, although it's generally been easier than it was leading up to last weekend. So we have a big pull-up for the AM event, which really helps, I think, take the pressure off. And I would say the same, like for the Pro Tour, it is very intense. There's a lot going on. But I think we're in a good position, and we can generally enjoy it.
Yeah, you shouldn't. If you're a good TD, you should not have to do anything once competition starts. You shouldn't have any responsibilities. Just putting out fires and hopefully taking it all in and actually enjoying it.
Any jobs, all the responsibility.
Yeah.
So, all right. You said you're open to talk about money stuff, so I want to do it a little bit. OTB is paying you via basically royalties on sales of discs and merch.
Correct, with a minimum of $20,000.
Right. How much did you make last year?
We got the minimum last year.
Minimum last year was 10.
Got it.
But so last year, remember, there was no one could get Frisbees, right? So we weren't able to purchase enough discs from Innova simply because of supply chain issues. So we only got, the minimum was 10 grand. But this year they were able to purchase 100,000 discs. Yeah, so eventually our upside with OTB will be in the six-figure range.
Right. So you said the 2 meter rule wasn't the reason for switching from Innova to MVP as your disc sponsor. So what was the reason?
We thought that we have a good property on the tour, and I don't mean property like the land, like we have a good business, and I knew through the grapevine that there was another major event on tour with a very popular course that perhaps was, out there shopping for new sponsors. And I talked to that guy that used to kind of work for and got some of the details. And then I would say not solicited offers, but also had some inbound interest once it was heard that we perhaps were soliciting offers. And the ask that we had was $25,000 cash, $25,000 in wholesale trade, and that's what funds our amateur events. So our amateur entry fees generate around $20,000 to $25,000 in income, right? Which is basically passes through from MVP. And so their contribution to us is 50 grand total. You know, their cost is probably like 35, right? But we basically wrote a purchase order from OTB that is like 5x of that. So everyone wins, right? Once OTB ends up selling the discs.
Right.
So we took that offer. Like, I like to deal very transparently and completely candid. Like, while I'm negotiating this, like, I'm also negotiating with Innova to be a tour sponsor, right? So I have to be very delicate and friendly and open, because I don't want any of the relationships to affect them, you know, to have any negativity. So we just sent the offer to Innova and said, here's what we have on the table from a competitive manufacturer. You know, do you want to meet it? Or should we just get cracking with this, you know, with this new company? And no ill will whatsoever. And they wished us well. And, you know, I've had no issues at all. So we're really happy that with our new partner. But
yeah, 100%. And, you know, we're open to, you know, other partners, I think,
of course,
in the future.
Of course. But it'll be tough to be. I mean, MVP has been phenomenal this year.
Yeah.
Like, blown us away with not just, like, you know, the financial aspect, but being on site has been remarkable. Very thankful.
And just making inventory available to us. It's still really tight. They're still, you know, producing 7 days a week, 3 shifts.
Right.
Trying to meet their demand. They have not caught up yet. And we signed this deal late, right? So they had their production schedule already planned out for the first 6 months of the year at least. And Steve Holloway was able to work it so that we were able to access the discs that, you know, Danny was going to be able to sell for us.
Last year's purse was just over $59,000. Where do you anticipate this year's purse being?
80 to 90. We have more players and more out of cash. I think last year's out of cash was 20.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we'll do at least 30. And plus, there's more players. I don't think we're not going to get the 6 figures this year. Probably next year. I've looked at the math. With 180 players times 250, you actually need, I think, 55,000 to get to a 6-figure purse. So we'll be south of that, but I've been doing purse watch with you, Charlie, too, and looking at, like, added cash for each event. I think the added cash for DDO is 34, but they had a larger field, so the field size obviously impacts it too, right? So I think we'll be about the same ballpark. It's honestly, added cash is that's not part of our, like, competitiveness. It's like, if Nate wants to keep being, you know, the biggest purse, I'd rather spend more money in other ways than just give it all to the pros. Granted, I certainly understand that they are the most valuable resource and partner of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and the money from the gate should go to them, and it absolutely does. But I think it also should go to professionalize the event and enhance spectator experience.
Yeah, it's a future development process in that way. What has the feedback been on the course so far from players?
I think it's been generally very positive. Lots of comments that it's long, low ceilings. The only, I wouldn't say negative, but the only thing that we've seen that we're looking to address is the turf early in the morning in areas that are getting irrigated. Because it is a golf course. They have a lot of high-value turf out there. They do have to water every day, at least once. So we're going to see what we can do to make sure that they're dry enough and good grip in the morning for the women. Really is the biggest issue that we're looking to improve on. It will be, you know, we had someone out there this morning. Actually, Leonard was out there this morning, kind of resurfacing, if you will, the turf. And we'll be taking a look at it every morning, including tournament days, trying to make sure it's as good as it possibly can be. But yeah, otherwise, I think the majority of players are really enjoying it. It's very challenging. I don't know. You've been on the stage a little bit more than I have as far as comments.
Yeah, it's just long, but that's part of the brand. I would love someday for someone to design a course on a golf course that is short and technical. I think that would be a remarkable achievement. But you know, you have to design with the property that you're on, and
for the players.
Yeah, we don't have elevation, so distance has to be, you know, one of the challenging elements.
Yeah. Yep.
that was a tangent from my money questions. I do have one more money question. We talk a lot about for players, the primary way that they earn money right now is through their sponsorship deal with the manufacturer. And the purse money that they win can be a nice chunk, but it's typically not the deciding factor for sort of what their tax returns look like at the end of the year. Where is it for tournaments right now? Is sponsorship, title sponsorship of the tournament and the disc sponsor that you have, is that still the driving force for revenue, or is Spectator starting to take over that side of
it's about time? I might even release like the P&L after the event, like a couple weeks after we talked to a bookkeeper. But the quick math is about $50,000 from MVP and OTB cash, $25,000 from the amateur tournament. I looked at Eventbrite yesterday. Right now, our net is 75, and the tour shares some of that goes towards Spectator experience. So it's pretty close. But I see, we're going to ask for more money from everyone next year, right? And we'll make more money at the gate. But I definitely see the gate as where the events can capture the upside. Because you just can't scale sponsorship like double every year. But just like the players get most of their money from royalties, so do we with our partnership with OTB.
Yep. Right. Well, it's fascinating. Josh, you got anything else?
Yeah, just one last question on those royalties. How much do you guys get per disc once that minimum is met?
50% of profit.
50% of profit. That comes out to what? To like
$3 to $5. Well, it depends. Yeah. Danny Corbett is the owner of OTB, so he's obviously selling D2C, not D2C, but he's selling retail, but he also sold some wholesale, so the margins on those is obviously much smaller. And then he takes out his cost of shipping, but I would say the quick math is like 20,000 discs times $1 to $5, depending on how he sells them.
Sure. Okay.
So it's like we'll get between 20, and it's this huge, ridiculous range, $20 to $100,000, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But we're factoring on our P&L. I'm only factoring in 20,000 right now.
So rest is just bonus.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my last question, Charlie. That's all I got.
Shawn, thank you so much for stopping by, and of course for always being open and honest about how everything is going. We wish you a lot of luck this weekend, and looking forward to seeing what the course looks like on the Disc Golf Network.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your after show, and I just want to thank you guys. If we can take a second to thank some of the people that are important to us.
Please.
Like we have core team members. There's like 10 guys that own and operate a lot of different functions. Those guys are awesome. We call it like Team SFO, basically, is still the name.
Yep.
MVP, OTB, the local community, like that we're pulling from like 5 or 6 different clubs. I want to thank Shawn, because I have a daughter and I wasn't able to get away. Shawn lived in Stockton for the last 2 months, which is like an hour to an hour and a half from where he lives in the Bay Area. The effort that he did with his team to install 32 tee pads for a non-permanent course. I hope people understand how crazy that is from a volunteer hours effort and financially. Who am I missing? Swenson Park, the city of Stockton. I want to thank you guys. You guys are like so important to me as a Disc Golf Pro Tour employee, and how you're keeping professional disc golf in the zeitgeist. It's amazing.
Yeah, you guys are the best.
Yeah.
But Leonard Muse,
yes.
And definitely, we had some really core people out there almost every weekend. I'd like to thank the Thumpers.
Nice. Greg Durlew, Andy Rothschild, our starter. I don't want to start naming names because then you forget someone and you feel bad.
Well, I just did.
It's like an Oscar speech. Got to be careful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And again, looking forward to the event. Good luck.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Jack, Shawn Mercy with us here on the Upshot interview series. We'll be back tomorrow with the regular show.